ever been to Whataburger?
I've heard
Cameron?
of it. I've never have actually been.
Okay. Yeah, Cameron, I'm sure you have.
Yep.
So you know about the little table things they give you with the number on them. That's like so. In college, me and a buddy, not me and a buddy, me and a bunch of buddies would just go to Whataburger, get a bunch of food, and then just take those things. So now I have a bunch of them, and I don't even use them for anything. I just have them.
Of course you did.
Yeah. Just throw them on, whatever. They're just cool. They're just fun to have. They're just.
I'm not sure you want that recorded,
knickknacks.
but I.
That'll be fine. What's Whataburger gonna do? Not sponsor us?
They're just numbers. I mean.
Yeah, I'm sure that happens to them constantly.
Yeah, I'm
they don't
almost
give a shit.
positive.
That would piss me off though if I was.
Let's get started!
But yeah, no, my whole food shebang was, I think I undercooked my burger. And, yeah, that's not sitting well in my stomach.
Yeah, no.
How undercooked are we talking?
Not super undercooked, so I should be fine. It's just a little undercooked. Enough to make it question if it was my fault.
Okay.
If it's my fault,
Can we
I'm actually
can we
just
start this podcast? Because I'm reading this fucking article and I already have some shit to say.
sick. We can get there.
Yeah, sure. I was just gonna say I ate some meatballs that were probably about 4 weeks too old, but you know, I was hungry.
Dude, I had vegan pizza over the weekend. That shit was actually delicious.
That's even worse. That's the worst out of everything that we've talked about so far.
No, it was actually really
I
good.
think.
Oh,
I was
sure.
gonna say, just because it's vegan doesn't mean it's bad.
It also wasn't strictly my choice.
Yeah.
My girlfriend's parents are vegans, and I was over at her house. But it was really good. It was like, it wasn't like pizza, but like as far as actual just food goes, it was like, yeah, I'd eat this again. I wouldn't pay the fucking $25 for it that I'm sure that they would charge me at a like fucking restaurant, but
Right.
yeah, like if that was the same price as a regular pizza, I'd eat that every once in a while.
Somebody offered me vegetable lasagna this week, and I was like,
Isn't that just lasagna?
yeah, but without like meat stuff in it. So
no, it
What?
also probably had like the different type of pasta.
I was gonna say like that just sounds like regular lasagna to me. Well, I guess we always did weird ass lasagnas at home. We always did like
this had
super stacked.
This had like broccoli and corn and peas and shit.
Okay,
in
yeah, that's
it.
weird.
So I was like, yeah, I think I'd rather just
Not.
die.
Well, it's like it's one of those things we had. There was this. Do you guys remember Alton Brown? In Good Eats,
You guys
the
hear
show.
me now?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, we're just ignoring you.
Okay, well, you completely cut out, and all I heard was Derek again.
Um,
So
Anyway,
I have no
Okay.
clue what your lasagna was like, but okay.
peas and corn and shitty.
It had like broccoli and shit.
Oh,
and
okay.
it's not
Yeah.
good.
But-
Not good at all.
There was this lasagna he made, and to be fair, it had like 2 pounds of meat in it, so it was definitely meat filled. But like,
That's
it
what I'm
was-
talking about.
It was like mostly spinach and mushrooms and tomatoes, and it was really fucking good.
But there was
so-
also meat.
Yeah, I mean, like we made it without the meat one time though, and it was pretty good. We used eggplant instead of the meat, and it was just,
Jesus.
dude, it was so good. Like I don't even like eggplant and mushrooms are not my favorite vegetables, but in the in the lasagna, it was just so fucking good.
Like, I don't mind vegetables. I like eating vegetables, but not when it's like to substitute meat or anything.
Yeah, I mean, like if you're gonna serve me vegetables, just don't be like unabashed about it. It's like, here's your fucking butternut squash, eat it, bitch. Like that's sure.
Yeah, that's why I won't eat like veggie burgers or shit like that. You know, just give me the vegetable. I'll eat that instead. I'll eat a fucking raw thing of fucking broccoli over a veggie burger.
Oh, dude, I can't stand raw broccoli. That's because I don't like the texture.
Yeah.
But dude, honestly,
Bite
I like
into
the
it
old
well.
veggie burgers better than the Impossible stuff.
The Impossible burgers apparently turn your insides into mush.
Well, it's a good.
So
Well, it's like the Impossible Burger is like getting to the point, like you can still tell it's not meat, but it's getting to the point where you're kind of like not sure if somebody just gave it to you. But like the old veggie burgers, like I like that they had a different taste and texture. You know, like I would choose to eat veggie burgers or turkey burgers over regular hamburgers if I had the choice. But like
their own thing.
Yeah, and it was
trying to be something else.
Yeah, and I mean like it was good, and I felt mildly better about myself even though I was still having a burger. So like, I don't know, like I'm glad that there's like other options for people who can't eat meat, but like, I don't know, don't send the Boca burgers away, dude. I love those things. Okay, let's get on to this article.
Let's go for it.
All right, welcome to Podcast 71, by the way. This is the Drowning Pools podcast. My name is Cayman Second. I'm joined by I Press the Buttons and Mr. Urban Buddha, or Super Urban Buddha, depending on which platform you're on. And we have this fucking article in front of us talking about the length of AAA games.
Oh, yeah.
Is Cameron...
Oh, shoot.
I'm here.
Okay,
I'm here.
okay. All right, so just reading through this thing, basically, to summarize, it was saying that Last of Us, the original Last of Us, took 15 hours to complete. Last of Us 2 took 25 hours, and saying that it's unsustainable for the like game blah 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 blah, and that the price of games hasn't gone up in like 40 years, and that it's unsustainable to do this. And I agree with that section of it, but like there's this quote at the very end, and that's kind of what popped up in our docket, was this writer would like to see the return of 12 to 15 hour of AAA games. And that's something I highly disagree with. Not because... No, after you.
I was going to say, when it says 12 to 15 hour AAA games, the thing is that it depends on what genre you're talking about.
Yeah, I guess. I think, like, it's one of those things where if multiplayer is a core or semi-core part of the game, the campaign can be 8 hours or 6 hours. Like, I don't mind. Like, a Call of Duty, like Modern Warfare 2's campaign, if you run through it, probably only lasts like 5 hours.
Yeah.
And that's chill, whatever. Like, that's not really the fun of Call of Duty. The fun of Call of Duty is playing with other people.
That's one subsection of the game.
Yeah, exactly. But, like, if your content is strictly just single player, I see no reason why it needs to be that short. If you have the ability and the capability and the tools and the want to create a game and a story that lasts a long time, like, even though I personally don't like those stories unless they're really engrossing, like, I see no reason to like short that. And likewise, if you have a game that's just fucking fun to play, like, you don't need an insanely long campaign either. Like, Far Cry 3 doesn't have, like, the campaign's, like, whatever, it's okay. But, like, the game itself is just fun to play, you know?
Yeah.
Or, like, Assassin's Creed. Like, before it got super saturated, like, AC2, AC Brotherhood, I spent way too much time just fucking around. So, I don't know, I feel like these games are just, like... I realize it's an industry and they're trying to make money and shit, but, like, it's one of those things where I feel like it's more about the money than, like, creating a good experience. And I realize not everything's going to be a sandbox, but...
It's a business.
Yeah, I mean, and I know that.
Once you get to a certain point in the business, you really don't give a fuck about the games anymore. It's more about making money off the games.
Yeah, and like...
That's why Sean Layden's over here trying to convince us that we need to be paying $60 for a game that's half as long as they usually are, right?
Yeah, and I mean... Go ahead.
The other thing is that I still don't think 15 hours is the average game length. I feel like 20, if anything, it would be like 20, 25 hours should be like your standard AAA game length.
I don't mind having a shorter campaign, but the amount of shit to do in the game should not equal less than $2 an hour.
And you also don't want to end up like the Order 1866 or whatever the fuck it was called, where it was like 6 hours long, and it was super beautiful, but it fucking sucked. You know?
Like, I don't mind a campaign that's 6 hours, but that you can spend 100 or 200 hours in the game world just doing random shit, you know? Like, Just Cause. Just Cause is a great example of a game like that.
Yeah.
Where it's a mildly straightforward campaign, but they just give you a fucking insane world to fuck around in, and that's cool.
But I feel like that's its own genre of game, though, at that point. Like, that's its own genre in itself.
It does just depend on the game because this concept was kind of thrown around a little while ago with like AA games where they were a little bit cheaper and they were a little bit shorter, but they still provide a very significant and rewarding experience. They were pushing that with like Hellblade when it was coming out, and that's
Hellblade.
a fucking amazing game.
That game is great.
Oh yeah. I have
So,
that
like-
from
so,
Humble
like-
Bundle. I need to get on that.
Like the shorter games can work, but like the way he's trying to sell it is like AAA games need to shorten themselves. I gotta read the rest of the article, but it's like AAA games need to shorten themselves so they can somehow sustain this model. Like I don't know what he's trying to get at. Like I agree that games being shorter would be awesome in some cases, but not
for
like
sure.
not just doing it just because
I think,
you know
I think
the
issue is
value of
that-
the games have changed.
I think people are. The issue is this term AAA game is becoming a broad statement over like just every kind of well-made game, because AAA doesn't necessarily need to be 60 hours long. It doesn't need to be 80 hours long, if that's what the genre supports.
Well,
if
it's
you are,
the gap between like indie games and
like AAA,
and
it's just
AAA
closed
games being
so
big.
much in the past
It-
10 years.
yeah.
like and like games that are like Hollow Knight
Hollow
is
Knight
this
is a AAA
massive,
game, but
insane.
It's not actually.
It's an indie game because it's like a Kickstarter game, but they just
Yeah.
kept making shit for it. So now it's like a
It's an
It's like
insane
like a
ass
50-hour
Yeah.
game. It's long. It's super crazy long, right? But then you've got like AAA, like actual AAA games that are not satisfying single player experiences, and they cost like $300 million to make or some shit.
Black Ops 3.
You know,
Is
And-
there? Hold on a second. Is there any AAA game that you can think of that doesn't have the realism aesthetic?
Doesn't have the realism aesthetic?
Yeah.
You mean like 3D rendered models and shit, or you mean like,
models rendered to look realistic, like human like.
Overwatch comes to mind? Anything by
Okay,
Blizzard,
yeah.
pretty much. They're as
Yeah, but,
AAA as
like,
it gets.
they make
other
it pretty cartoony.
other than that though,
Yeah, I mean I could probably come up with some.
because I
I mean, like Nintendo shit.
Oh, yeah, Super Mario Odyssey.
Nintendo will definitely.
Any
do
like
it, yeah.
any anime game, because Sega makes a lot of AAA like
Yeah.
anime games and shit.
Sonic,
Bandai
anything
Namco,
Sonic related.
Tekken, Sonic fighting games.
I was gonna say Sonic doesn't count because I don't think those are AAA quality.
Yeah, but they are AAA games. That's the issue.
Yeah.
They are
That's true.
because Sega's a AAA company. They put the money
That is
in.
true. Yeah.
I mean, before like Rock Band, I guess. Rock Band's like cel shaded. Oh, Borderlands.
Yeah, Yakuza, Borderlands. Okay, so I was just trying to think because like the only ones that like are coming to mind for when I hear AAA is these super realistic games that like only are like being complained about because they have to go into the realism aspect. But whenever you hear about like a AAA game that's not necessarily pointed into the realism part, you don't hear as many complaints about them working on the specific blade of grass or anything like that. That
Like what the
Doesn't-
game actually looks like. Like when
Yeah,
like when it's like Sayonara Wild Hearts, no one really gives a fuck about the graphics.
Or
but
even
when
like
it's
Breath of the Wild.
Spider-Man, people go nuts.
Well, it's like you look at Breath of the Wild, which is a AAA game, still sells as a AAA game,
Yeah.
and that game offers, fucking hundreds of hours of content, and it's played on a fucking Switch. It is played on a mobile device.
But you know what? I think since Nintendo is working at like a lower kind of, like they're working on fucking the Switch, which is like a toaster.
lower
You know,
fidelity or
They're not spending as much money as Sony or Microsoft to make games, you know. So they're probably already working at that AA kind of level and making AAA money, which is why they can continue to do what they've been doing.
yeah.
I guess. I don't know. I don't mind. I think I kind of get where this guy's coming from, but I also think it's a very dangerous route to start walking down, because I personally like campaigns that are shorter, because then I can say I've completed a game, right?
Yeah.
But like, every game that I've ever played that has a short campaign, that I really like, the game itself I really enjoy, has just been a good fucking game. And I feel like if you just give these developers and like storyboard writers and stuff, like, you're like, okay, you got it 12 hours minimum, and then after that, fuck it, like, whatever. Like, at what point do they just stop giving a shit? You know, and I realize that, like, companies need to make money, blah, 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 whatever. But, like, at what point do they just stop making good games? And, like, the indie games that have been coming up are the ones that have been getting the most, like, praise, because they're new, they're original, and they're not just turning shit out. And, like, to be fair, I fucking love Call of Duty. And, like, I will probably buy most Call of Duties as long as they're not absolute dog shit. But
Call of Duty is a factory product at this point.
Yeah.
It's on a fucking assembly line, and it's being pushed through a machine, you know.
And I mean, you know, it's fun for a little bit. I'll get my $60 out of the multiplayer, out of, you know, Battle Royale or whatever. But, like, not every game's gonna do that, and not every game is gonna be able to hit that, like, 12-hour mark and still be a fucking good game. You know? And I think that's the more important thing, is, like, fucking look at Witcher 3. How many people have actually finished Witcher 3? I'm guessing that the proportion is
psychos,
like, significantly lower than the people who spent 500 hours playing Gwent. Like,
Yeah.
like I'll throw 100 hours at a game, but Witcher 3 was beating me the fuck down at like hour 69, and I was like, I'm done. I can't do this.
well, I played the original Witcher, and that has, like, a legit 80-hour campaign. Like, just the campaign. And there's other shit to do in that game. But, like...
Yeah, I hadn't even gotten into the DLC or anything yet. And those are probably gargantuan. So...
I know that... I think it's the Blood and Wine DLC, or Blood and Stone DLC, is, like, basically a full game.
Awesome.
Thanks,
CD Projekt Red.
But it's just, like, it's one of those things where I feel like companies look at, like, these numbers and they're like, yeah, we have, like, an 80-hour game. Like, don't make your fucking... don't make sure your game hits 80 hours. Like, make sure your game is fun enough to play for 80 hours, you know?
Yeah.
Like, you should give it to testers, and they should be able to play it for, like, 2 weeks straight, and for the most part have positive reviews for it. And not just because you're paying them. Like,
And I think that's why a lot of big AAA games are also kind of... A lot of them are becoming open world now, so that gives them an excuse to kind of make them these huge experiences and make them last forever and hide shit all throughout the map to kind of waste your time, because it's like, you know, they need time wasters in there. So having an open world makes it easy to just make the fucking player walk around through everything so they can bloat their shit. So a game that would have been 25 hours is now fucking 46.
and to be fair...
You gotta have
go ahead.
a single animator work on a single rock that's missed out of place, so that way the what's it called, physics all fuck up, and then you have to have someone test that for an hour.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, it's one of those things, I mentioned it earlier, but the Assassin's Creed series, that's a AAA series, and it is open world, and it is collectathon bullshit, but, like, up until...
That's like Ghost of Tsushima is about to be fucking open world. That game doesn't need to be open world at all.
But, like, I've played every Assassin's Creed game up until, like, Brotherhood, which admittedly is only 3, but I finished all 3 games. And Assassin's Creed 1, I had to finish twice because of a game-breaking glitch. Literally game-breaking. Like,
Gotta love those.
and I mean, that's fine, whatever. I fucking love that game. Assassin's Creed 1 is still my favorite, and I know it's the shittiest.
It's my favorite out of the 3 as well.
Yeah.
Or as I say the 3.
But yeah, like,
but
I know,
you know what I mean.
I know it, like, I know it's the shittiest, right? Like, I don't need anyone to tell me, oh, it's the shittiest. I know it's the shittiest. It's still my favorite. But, like...
It's still my favorite as well. Altair is the best.
But, like, it's just... It's one of those things where every once in a while...
No, Assassin's Creed 3 is the shittiest. Y'all shut the fuck up.
Oh, you know what?
You're right.
You're right.
That was the first Assassin's Creed game that I set down and didn't pick back up for over a year.
It was like unequivocally bad, yeah.
It was the
And
one
then,
that
and like
when I
even the
finished-
ones that came after it, like Unity, I think that was like really bad and that was broken
Yeah.
basically. Like, oh yeah, whatever. All those were not that bad compared to how disappointing fucking 3 was.
Yeah.
That was the thing, is that it wasn't necessarily bad, it was just disappointing.
Yeah.
And that's worse than being bad.
It's like
I
super
liked-
cool. It's like super cool looking. It's got a cool concept, cool aesthetic. It's got a cool time period.
Even the
and
cool,
then it's
like...
just kind of boring.
Well, it's like, the weird part was... And I'm somebody who gets invested in this. Like, I'm somebody who bought Assassin's Creed books, which, by the way, are way fucking better than the games.
Of course, they're books.
But, like... Assassin's Creed 1 is still my favorite, and I know it's the shittiest. It's still my favorite. But, like, it's one of those things where every once in a while...
Of course, they're books.
I'm somebody who liked the redesign of like the hidden blade, and I like the rope dart, and just like I like the concept of Assassin's Creed 3 as a whole. And I don't even think like I thought the fucking dad Hatham was like super cool, like a cool character to follow. And I wasn't even I was pissed when they pulled the rug out and he's a Templar at the beginning of the game, and then you have to follow his son. And I was like, we don't get to follow him. He's a Templar. Fuck. Like, and then it happened, and I realized Connor is just the worst. Like, Connor is what unequivocally made that game bad.
He's just annoying.
He's just Anakin Skywalker is what he is.
Yeah.
Like, he's just angry.
Everything about him is cool except for his personality.
Exactly. I was just about to say that.
And, like, they gave him... Like, he had so many opportunities to, like, make statements, you know?
Yeah.
Like,
to really stand for something, to actually mean something.
Well, he's, like, half, I guess Native American is incorrect. No, I guess that's probably the correct term. He's half Native American.
Yeah.
And, like, they don't really do anything with that besides burn his mom. Like...
Yeah, they kind of just use it as, like, a sad backstory.
And, like, it gets him started. He wants
revenge now.
Yeah, it gets him started on the path, but that's not the reason he ends on the path. Like, which is fine. Character motivations can change, but, like, they had so many cool ways to, like... What if he had spoken... I don't know what the fuck he was, but, you know, let's say Cherokee. It wasn't, but, you know, let's roll with it. Like, if he had spoken Cherokee to other fucking tribes or whatever, and, like, had been able to... Like, I would have been interested to see if they could have done a recreation with different, like, Native American tribes and, like, how they would interact. That would have been really cool. And, like, I'm not going to say easy thing to implement, because tracking down people who can speak the different Native American, like, languages and dialects is fucking impossible. But, like, it would have been cool, even if they had made up or, like, you know, compiled all of the Native American stuff into, like, one kind of mishmash smorgasbord of a language. I would have liked to have seen that. And, like, even if it's in the DLC, it wasn't in the base game, which is what I experienced.
Yeah.
So, it just feels
the
like...
DLC is, like, weird, because it takes the idea... Because I think George Washington was the one who had something to do with the actual burning down of his village. Like, he was there or something. He was, like, in charge of the soldiers when Hatham showed up or some shit like that. But, so that one is like, alright, so what if George Washington was the bad guy? So when they win the war...
He becomes a tyrant.
He becomes King Washington or whatever, and then you have to kill him from there or something, but it's still terrible.
Yeah, it's one of those things where I don't want that to happen again, where they have this narrative that really should have been 10 hours long, that they stretch into like a 25-hour game.
Yeah.
Assassin's Creed games, and sandbox games, and games in general, should just be fun. And if you have a narrative that lasts a long time, it should not weigh me down. I should be excited to play the game.
Like Saints Row 4 is not that great a game, but the thing it gets right is at any moment you can just start having fun. You know, you can just start fucking around, start flying through the air and shooting dildos at people and all kinds of crazy stuff. You know, like that's why people keep playing GTA despite it having not changed in like
20 years. Yeah.
Also, the multiplayer actually has a lot of stuff now.
I'm sure it does, but again, that's just them dropping assets in a sandbox.
Oh yeah, they basically opened up it so that way they can just say, oh yeah, anybody who likes multiplayer, go make your own stuff, and then we'll put it in the game for you. They're
actually doing what sports games should be doing.
Yeah.
They're like, yeah, we'll just fuck with GTA Online, and that's just gonna be it. You know, it'll be attached to GTA 5 or whatever, but it's just gonna be GTA Online, and then they can just release that in perpetuity. But
it's a new word. I don't know. I don't like that they're like these set like a game should be this long, you know?
Yeah.
Because like that doesn't tell me how much, like how good it's gonna be. And obviously that's a choice thing as well as like a game thing, because like there are some games that are just fantastic that I can't play. Like I don't care. And there's some games that I love that are fucking awful, but like I continue to play them. Or like Kingdom Hearts 2, right? Like not fucking awful by any means, you know. But it's, you know, it's like a 6 or a 40-hour campaign really, right?
Yeah.
And I've played through that thing like at least 5 times. I've sunk 200 hours into that game. Like at least. So it's one of those things that like you can't really judge a game by the length of its campaign.
No.
And I get worried about that, you know, like, I get worried about what state the AAA industry is going to be in. I'm not super worried about Call of Duty, which is really the only AAA game that I give a shit about, because it's just fun. But, like, you know, I don't want to see the fucking next, like, Fallout game do that kind of shit, too.
I always think it's just, as I was saying earlier, time should be to genre, not to AAA-ness.
Yeah, now that I've spoken my bit, I think I agree with you.
Because, like, if you get an RPG, you want the RPG to be longer. If you get an open world game, you want the open world game to be, like, kind of precise, but the open worldness carries the time.
If you get like a horror game, you don't want it to go on for fucking 78 hours.
No. If you get a puzzle game, you want the puzzles to be just hard enough, but not, like, too hard where, like, you're sitting there for an hour on one single puzzle.
Speak for yourself. That's how I contemplate my humanity. Yeah, I don't know. I was thinking about it, and, like, Dragon Quest XI I haven't played in nearly 10 months. But I still get so excited just thinking about playing the game.
Oh, that's the adult in you.
No, like, it's one of those games where I'm like, oh my god, it'd be so fun to play that game. And then I sit on YouTube for 8 hours. Like,
That's what I'm saying.
but, like, that's the kind of game that, you know, that's the kind of feeling I should be getting when I'm seeing these games, you know?
Yeah.
And Dragon Quest XI is a AAA game, straight up. Like, it's Japan AAA, but it's AAA, right? It's Square Enix, goddammit. Like, it's...
I was gonna say,
Yeah. But, like, it's one of those things where
if
it's
the
just...
company that's making fucking Final Fantasy games isn't AAA, what, like, come on.
Yeah. So it's one of those things that, like, I don't know. I should feel that about your game, essentially. And regardless of if it's 80 hours long or 2, if I can get more enjoyment out of it, then more power to you. Oh, fuck. What was that game? There was a game that,
Dun dun.
that was, like, the campaign was only, like, 2 hours long, but, like, it really heavily influenced, like, replayability. Fuck, I can't remember it off the top of my head. I used to play it, too.
Stanley Parable.
No. I mean, that is...
Slay the Spire.
It was a bit like SLS, yeah. It was kind of a roguelike, but not really.
Okay.
And it wasn't Stanley Parable, although that game is a... Like, I understand some people think it's pretentious, but I think the writing is actually fantastic.
I mean, it is super pretentious, but it's good writing. So.
It is pretentious.
It's like intentionally pretentious. Like,
it's just
the
super
way
good.
the fucking narrator talks to you is like, you know.
Why the fuck are you going there?
That same dude made... what was that other game? Fuck, what is it called? I can't remember what it's called, but basically it was a game about a guy, and it was basically a walking simulator, and he was telling a story about this dude he met.
Oh, Firefly?
Firewatch?
Firewatch?
No.
Okay.
So basically the guy is like this programmer, and he made a game, and I want to say, like, the guy who made this game shared that game with a bunch of people, and the guy who made the game was like, you betrayed me and my whatever, and he disappeared from the guy's life forever. And the game was about that dude being like, I betrayed my friend. And the whole controversy around the game was like, is the guy in the story a real guy? Is this a real story?
Is it the one with the ink blob monsters?
No, I don't think
Okay.
so. It was a bunch of it had a bunch of like little clever like kind of programming things for video games, but ultimately it was kind of just nothing.
I see.
Okay, fuck it, whatever. I'm not gonna be able to find this fucking game, but I was looking through my Steam library and, like, hoping to find it, but I'm not gonna fucking bother. But it did get me thinking. Like, visual novels are like that, where the actual, like, campaign of each visual novel is, you know, an hour or two, really. Like, some are a little bit longer, but, like, if there's multiple endings, like, most visual novels do not take that long to finish. And it's just going back and, like, fixing the other shit that you're doing. So,
Yes, yeah.
I don't know. I don't like... I do like the idea of times being genre dependent, but I don't like the idea of time in general as a...
Yeah, as a factor of what you want to do for your game.
Or as, like, a factor of
Well,
how...
'cause it's Sean Layden trying to find an excuse to make us pay more for less game. As a big video game former video game executive guy, he's all about that money, and he's all about like, all right, we're gonna chop. Like, he was part of that generation of dudes who was like, all right, let's chop video games up, and then sell and make the DLC and sell that shit to you piecemeal, right? Like that was him and all his buddies.
Right. Since we are talking about this, how do we feel about different pay models for games? Because we're on the subject, basically. Let's just say RPG, a long ass RPG, right?
Like I don't know, Final Fantasy.
Final Fantasy. You know what? Perfect, because it's already split into 3 parts, and we already know this. Final Fantasy VII Remake, right? It's split into 3 parts. The first game costs $60. The second game's going to cost $60. The third game's going to cost $60. And if there's a 4th part, that's also going to cost $60.
Yeah.
Right? Mm-hmm. So, let's say you bought all 4 parts. That's $240. Would you rather have that be like a subscription based where you play per month and you pay subscription? Would you just rather have the game and pay for it all at once? Would you just wait for all 4 parts to come out and then buy the $250 version because it's gonna be a little more expensive?
That's a little bit probably what I'm gonna get. It'll be when all the parts come out. I'm gonna wait for a collection and then just buy the collection,
which will also be cheaper. Yeah.
Yeah, it'll be cheaper by then.
I said it's more expensive, but I meant to put it at like.
Because by the time the 4th part is out, if there's a 4th part, by the time the last part is out, the previous parts will be discounted. Yeah. So.
I think Final Fantasy VII is mildly an exception because I'm definitely jumping on it as soon as it comes out. So I guess I'll be doing each part individually.
And
it's not that egregious because it is multiple games over multiple years. It's not like a game coming out every couple months. It's not like a Telltale game trying to sell you the story. Like, you get the game and then tries to sell you the story parts each for $60. Like, it's not like that. It's a full game that you're getting for $60.
No. So, but yeah, would you rather have a game? Let's say there's a game coming out, and they're working on it, but you want it sooner. You can buy the first half of the game now, and then buy DLC for it later.
Wait, okay, hold on.
No.
Is the DLC the rest of the story?
Yes.
Fuck no.
Yeah, absolutely fucking
okay.
not. That's something like a child would accept. They'd be like, do you want half the story now, little boy? Be like, yes, I want it now. It's like, no, you need it all.
I also wouldn't pay for that, but I'm just saying, like, I'm trying to think of different ways that you could pay the same amount for more game.
They could stop trying to fuck us and just make the whole damn game.
Yeah. I was gonna say
that's literally it. It's that simple. There's no negotiating with these fucks. Like, it's literally, hey, stop trying to nickel and dime us for every bit of this game. Let us earn cosmetics. Let us earn that shit. Let us earn, let the DLC just be the game.
So I've always been a fan of being able to buy cosmetics, but you also have to figure out a way to earn cosmetics. Like, say maybe there's like a paid cosmetic that you can't get without it, but make something similar that you can pay for or you can earn.
I think that it's, if I pay for a game, then I should be able to earn everything in that game within the game. Straight up. There should be no money blockage whatsoever.
Because here's the thing. This isn't like some mysterious problem that suddenly appeared that we have to solve. They created this problem.
Yeah.
They made their bed, now they can lie in it.
So it's like, all right, can we go back to the way things used to be, where you would buy a game and that would be the game? Like, that would be it? You wouldn't have to buy like $40 more worth of shit just to have the full game?
Yeah. And like
Mortal Kombat 11 is the most recent, most insane shit ever. Like, to play the whole game, to get the rest of the story, you gotta pay like $100.
Yeah.
For this fighting game
that no one gives a shit about, really.
Ridiculous. So the idea that we're the ones who gotta go up to them and grovel and be like, can we at least do this, please? Can we change it up a little? No. There's no, they made this problem, and they're gonna fucking suffer for it because people are gonna stop putting up with it.
Let's hope.
At some point.
I will say that two things that I think kind of counteract what I said earlier, I do agree with, which is episodic gaming. I actually like if you don't have to buy, like if it's not a full price game and you don't have to buy all the episodes at once.
Right.
I think episodic gaming in a full game that's done is stupid as fuck. But if it's like the Telltale games where the first one comes out, it's, you know, $6.99 and the rest of the episodes are $4.99, I think that's fine.
Like, Telltale games crashed and burned, but that's because they were basically burning the candle at
IPs.
both ends.
Yeah.
But that was a really good idea.
And
Those
it wasn't
episodic
overly
games.
expensive, and it was
Yeah.
written well. It's like Telltale. The issue with Telltale was that they were so fucking good at what they did that they've essentially ruined episodic gaming for everybody else because they need to do it that fucking well.
And like they were literally doing so much shit because they were the best ones in the industry. They're doing all these different games that that eventually they kind of just it was all like the quality went down because you can't focus on all that shit at once, you know.
Yeah. On top of that, the higher ups were too stubborn to get a better engine.
Yeah, they just didn't want they didn't want to change with the times. So
And-
that's why Telltale had like the fucking shittiest running games.
And I will say, the other model that I'm okay with is if it is a free-to-play game that has money-only cosmetics. I think that's completely fine.
Yeah.
Yep.
Because
I also agree.
like, I don't want ads in my game, which is, like, whatever. I still hate it. But, like, if that's how you want to get by on mobile, sure, whatever, fuck it. But, like, if it's a full PC release, you know, or a full console release,
Yeah.
you make the game free, and you make the cosmetics money only. Like, yeah, I think that's completely fair because you're supplying a game that should be, you know, fucking fun to play.
Yeah. Stupid question. How do you feel about seeing the random Coke bottle floating around in the background, or like random vending machine that has like Pepsi on the side of it or some shit?
I think it depends. I think if it's meant to take place in a world that is similar or as is ours, then I think it's fine. Because it's like Pepsi fucking Coke machines were on, you know, every fucking corner back home. Not really, but like there's a Starbucks in every corner back home.
Like if I saw like a Coke advertisement in Street Fighter, I'd be like, yeah, because it's the Street Fighter tournament sponsored by Coca-Cola.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. I was wondering because some people get really pissed for no reason about that.
'cause-
Like,
Yeah, it's so dumb.
Here's the fucking thing: these fucking dipshits want to fucking be more like movies. Don't be scared to have some little fucking advertisement in your shit.
I think
Monster Energy drink.
well, it's like
Like
Street Fighter's a great example because like the Red Bull products, right?
Oh yeah.
Like there's Red Bull
Yeah.
shit. It's sponsored by Uniqlo. But like I bought Red Bull. I got a free fucking costume for Ryu and Ken, which
Yeah.
that is fucking sick, right? Because they get advertisement, and I get a free costume, and I have a delicious beverage that other people may not agree with that, but I love it. So like, it's a win-win for everybody, right? Everybody has fucking cross promotion, and I get something else for drinking Red Bull. Like it's just a good combo. I don't see a problem with it.
Yeah. I don't either. I'm just. It
I,
always
I,
makes me laugh.
I will get annoyed though if like every loading screen is some new fucking sponsor.
Yeah, Street
especially
Fighter.
especially if it's a game I've already paid for.
I was gonna say if it's pushing it in your face, that's one thing, and I don't agree with that. But if it's just like you're playing Yakuza and one of the streets happens to have or all the streets that like have vending machines happen to be either Coke related or Nestle related or whatever.
Bro, a lot of the places in the Yakuza games are just real places.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly.
well, yeah, I know that. I
Just straight
realize
up.
that.
There's just
I'm
no
just-
like with just 1-to-1. They got like, hey, we need sponsors. Oh well, they'll sponsor us. We just put them in the city.
They'll sponsor us, or the Yakuza will be after them.
Which is not a joke.
It's not.
That's
Sega
actually
Mega-
real. Sega allegedly is in bed with the Yakuza.
I'm not
Allegedly.
surprised, dude. How do they stay
Not-
afloat? But like, okay, like
Allegedly.
it's one of those things where if it's like actually Sega, if it's a Sonic world, I don't want to fucking see a Coke product, right? Because it's not really
Yeah,
our
because it's a goofy cartoon world.
yeah, and like if they want to have their own like Coke-esque kind of thing, sure, whatever. But like if it's a game, let's see, what's a good example? Like Persona.
Last of Us.
Persona has vending machines that you can interact with.
Yeah.
And like, yeah, they have, you know, fictional drinks, but like, if they want to put in a Coke that gives you 10 SP instead of a tap that gives you 10 SP, like, I don't give a shit about that. You know?
Fucking Final Fantasy 15 had the cup noodle shit.
Yeah.
Where it just kind of shows up, and it's like, oh yeah, cup noodles.
I had one of those recently. I was super disappointed.
They're not good.
Well, it's like, it's not even ramen.
It's really not.
That's the worst part. I thought I was getting ramen, but they're just like the shittiest noodles ever. Top ramen is better, and it's cheaper.
Yeah.
Anyway, getting back to this, like, I don't think that there's an issue with that. Like, and especially like Watch Dogs or like even CS:GO to an extent, like games that are set in planets, or like Spider-Man, games that are set in planets or worlds that are like supposed to be close to ours. I don't see an issue with like vending machines or billboards or anything like that being ads, and especially if, you know, they just take ads from like actual billboards and just shrink them, or whatever. Because then like you don't feel like you're getting pushed, and it just feels like a place, you know.
Yeah.
I feel like games, like companies go so out of their way to try to do like game specific advertisements and shit.
But you know what? Here's the deal, because I kind of just was thinking about this. You know how like games, because they have some rights issue, like the music or a piece of art or some bullshit.
Yeah.
You know, they get pulled down from the store, and then they're never fucking seen again. You know, so
That's true.
there is a problem where like if these two companies, you know, split apart and they start sponsoring some like the rival company, you know, they're not gonna want their shit in that game.
That's
So,
a good point.
but you know, that's also decently rare. So
Yeah, I mean, and I think it would be one of those things where, like, maybe there's a long-lasting relationship, but, like, for the most part, like, maybe Mountain Dew and Call of Duty or something, but, like,
yeah,
I think for the most part, it should just be one-offs, you know?
yeah,
And, like, it is... I don't know how the best way to say this is, but, like, I am all for giving people more, like, cosmetic options or, like, endorsing, subsidizing a game through that kind of shit, as long as it's not intrusive to the game. And what I was getting around before was game advertisements are usually so much more intrusive than any other real type of advertisement that we have to deal with, because game is interactive. Watching TV is
right.
passive. Reading, well, I mean, I guess you wouldn't see an ad in a book, but like a magazine, like reading an ad in a magazine is passive. Even looking at like Times Square, those are all passive ads. Like they're jumping out at you for sure because of their colors and they're moving and shit, but like it's not like you have to actually interact with them. You can choose
it's
to
not
ignore them.
stopping you from what you're doing.
Yeah, so I feel like if we move more towards ads in games being like that, I would not mind more ads, because that's just life. It's just being added at. Like that's just how marketing works.
Yeah.
And like I think I was watching a video on Overwatch, and that's why it's in my head right now. But like Overwatch has cities on Earth. Why the fuck are all these buildings pristine? Why is there no dicks drawn on them? Why is there no Coke ads or like fucking, you know, like whatever? There are cans, but they're just blank ass cans.
It like some sort of super future ideal Earth?
Yeah, but then it went to shit, and that's when the game starts.
Okay.
But like,
Well, I
Overwatch
mean,
was
people would be
doing their
chill, I
job.
guess.
my point is that like, it's shit like that you can maximize your profits with, you know. And like, if you want to subsidize that game, or Valorant, right? Riot is still technically an indie company. Well, I guess not anymore because they bought by Tencent, but like they started out as an indie company. And if they wanted to subsidize by putting, you know, a vending machine as
The
Coke.
shopkeep.
the shopkeep, yeah. Well, I mean, League I think is a little bit would be more towards putting skins on the champions. But like, if you want to do that for Valorant, where they have like a Coke skin or like a Mountain Dew skin, like I don't think that's the worst thing in the world. Because like vibrant skins are kind of part of the allure of those kind of games anyway.
Yeah.
So like I feel like it would be just a good way to like drive up like revenue and subsidize shit. Like I don't know. I'm sure that they've done some research into this shit, and there's probably some reason why it isn't like being done. But as a gamer, I would fucking like if I would drink the shit out of Mountain Dew if I knew I was gonna get a new Vandal skin in Valorant. I also just like Mountain Dew, but whatever.
Well, they're also well. Here's also the deal. A lot of these bigger companies are also being subsidized by your tax dollars.
Yeah, the
So-
cornstarch bullshit, but
So a lot of what happens that they do is them really just trying to rip you off for even more of your money when they really don't need to.
Well, it's like, what if instead of spending, $100 million on a 30-second commercial for the Super Bowl, what if instead you just were in CS:GO? Or
why don't they just send a tweet and then sell their game? Why don't they just put a video up on YouTube?
My point is, like, it seems like, especially since the gaming industry is so much bigger than the film industry now, it makes little sense to really use television.
I don't know about bigger.
I mean, just financially it is.
I don't know, because the Avengers movies made like billions and billions of dollars. It's like the most successful film of all time.
I know, but Call of Duty smashed that record like 2012.
Did it?
Yeah, it was the most it was the most financially lucrative media release of all time.
But that's just Call of Duty back then.
Actually, I'm curious. Hold on, let me look at this. Gaming
So,
industry versus.
do we want to do our weeks today?
I mean, yeah, you could.
I played some games. I played a bunch
No,
of
you
Power
didn't.
I played a bunch of Power Rangers. I'm just going to ignore you. I played
Who the fuck puts an apostrophe? Google. God damn it, I hate people.
I know everybody hates people. I'm getting back into Central Fiction. That's another fighting game I'm playing.
Blaze Blue.
Yeah, Blaze Blue Central Fiction. It's a beautiful game. Not BB Tag, because fuck that game. Still hate it. But I played a little indie game made by 3 developers who I now back on Patreon, known as Neon Tail. Yeah, Neon Tail's a fucking good game, you guys. Just go follow them on Twitter. You can go play their game. There's a demo.
I'm
Demo
good.
out on Steam right now.
Nah.
If you like Jet Set Radio, it feels very good.
Oh, definitely not then.
Well, you're a scrub and don't know how radio can make you understand the concept of love.
Okay, so moving on from that. According to what I've looked up, at least in 2018 it was bigger. In 2016 it was bigger than the music and film industries put together.
Oh, you know why it was bigger? Because of Fortnite and shit.
Well,
Fortnite's so fucking stupidly massive. Cause I've seen the numbers for Fortnite and it was like in the billions. So I do believe that it probably exploded past.
The other thing you have to
movies for a little while.
understand is that mobile games also are part of the
Mobile
gaming.
games too, yeah, that's right. Yeah.
But like, it's been bigger. It's been bigger than the film industry for I think about 10 years now.
Okay. Yet we still got fucking dipshits trying to make video games more like movies.
Yeah. Well, I mean, like, whatever. Back to your week, cuz. Besides your Central Fiction.
Neon Tail, it's a fucking good game.
What about it makes it good, Cameron?
It feels nice to move. It feels real. Like, that's the main thing. It's a skating game, and it feels good to turn. Most skating games don't have good turning. This one, turning feels very similar to like you would drift in a Mario Kart or a kart racing game. It's nice. It's real nice. Also looks interesting.
Yeah, I mean, it looks good.
I've only only played through like 2 missions, but reading I read the overview for the game. It was like, how to use skating to overthrow something. Let me go look it up real quick.
I just want to say that on their official Steam page, under additional notes, if your video card is overheat, and then it goes into like how to fix it, but like,
Nope, I didn't want to open it. I wanted to.
bruh.
You know, man, I'll just wait. Like, here's the thing about demos for me now. I just want the game. So
Yeah,
I'm willing to
that's
wait
fair.
for something that's a little bit more of a full experience, like an early access game. You know.
Neon
So-
Tail is an open world roller skating game where you follow,
Open world, gotta
Oh.
fucking bloat your game numbers. I see.
you follow a young girl's adventure and save the streets of Blue Pole City from dimensional disaster.
That sounds cool.
I'm just like, I made it through 2 missions. Where does this dimensional disaster come in?
I will say I probably will buy this game because it's only $10. So
Yeah, I mean, I'm probably gonna get it too.
I already bought it. I'm quite happy, and I'm supporting them on Patreon because it's 3 guys or 3 people. I don't know if it's guys or whatnot, but it's 3 people making this game.
it's 3 dudes.
And
3 dudes in a hot tub, not touching.
5 feet apart because they don't want to get sick.
Damn Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
Damn Backstreet Boys reunion tour.
But it's just like I don't know.
Oh, apparently you get superpowers at some point. I need to play this game more because that's a phrase that I want to see that happens.
I want like Megas XLR crossed with Jet Set Radio.
Oh my god.
Please and thank you. That shit would be insane.
I want like a giant robot that like slides around the city fighting monsters and shit.
Can we just get a giant robot kart racing game?
I think they did that at one point.
Probably wasn't good then.
It probably wasn't.
I mean, I know there's been Transformers racing games.
Ooh, you could just have like the car bit of the robot driving around the city at first, and then it's like a car game, but then you turn into a giant robot.
That'd be done.
You write this down.
Yeah, that'd be okay.
Anyway, for my week, I watched a bunch of kung fu movies. Well, okay, I played a little bit of Revengeance because it was on sale, and I've been eyeballing it for a few months because I'm like, I want it for the PC.
Mm-hmm.
But so finally it was like $10, so I got it. I love that game. It's just fun. It's just awesome. It's just you cut shit up with the sword.
It's a good time.
Anyway, I watched a bunch of kung fu movies. I watched where do I start? I watched a movie called Paradox, which is basically Taken, except it doesn't suck. And the girl just dies. It's actually really good. It has really good performances. The story is kind of like your typical like revenge story. Like they kidnapped my daughter and now I gotta go find her. But like the performances are really good. It's got Tony Jaa, and he's awesome.
Tony Jaa is pretty awesome.
It's really this movie is like held up by its performances. Like it's one of those. It's like the action is really good, but just the straight up acting is phenomenal. Then I watched Iron Protector, which is a little bit more of like a lighthearted affair. Dude is like a martial artist who his body is like invincible almost. He's very durable, and he just kind of it doesn't really explain why he's in the city, but his master dies and he goes to see his one of his old fellow students who got kicked out, and that dude's like a crime lord or whatever, and it's all about them and how they get along now that they've gone through these different paths in their lives. Story is whatever, but the action is pretty good. Mm-hmm. Then I watched Call of Heroes, which is basically this fucking dirty ass bum is he travels to a town, and the town is basically like their army is left to go fight in some war, and there's another army down the road coming to them to basically invade them or whatever. And this is another one where the performances are fucking amazing. The story itself is actually really good too. Basically, the son of the leader of this army shows up. He murders 3 people in the town, and it's pretty brutal. Like it's like they're setting up. Like one of the characters is this teacher who they're setting up to be like the love interest of another character, but he just puts a gun in her mouth and pulls the trigger. And then he shoots a child, and then he shoots an old man.
Okay.
So
that's kind of fucked up.
It's pretty brutal. Like gun violence, like whenever a gun gets whipped out and somebody gets shot in this, like it's pretty fucked up. It's pretty brutal.
It might as well be Mortal Kombat at that point.
No, it might as well be actual real world gun violence.
Oh, gotcha. Okay.
That's how it's portrayed. There's like no like, it's portrayed as like very violent and horrific.
Very fast paced, cut, dead.
It's very sudden. It's always very sudden. It's like, oh shit. Like the only you don't really get a chance to like see it coming. Like you just the only thing you get is like a flash of the gun and then like the bullet firing.
Gotcha.
But basically, so all the badass guardians in town, the guardians basically protect the town whenever the army is away. Mm-hmm. So the and they're all a bunch of cool kung fu dudes. So they catch the guy and they're like, all right, you murdered 3 people. We're gonna fucking kill you tomorrow. We're gonna execute you. And the murderer's like lieutenant or whatever shows up, and the dirty bum from outside the town, who's kind of the main character, kind of not. He recognizes the lieutenant, and the lieutenant's like, all right, give me back my commander or whatever, or we're gonna bring in our army and just slaughter the whole fucking town. And basically the conflict of the whole movie is: do we release this guy, or do we hold on to our values and let them come in and basically slaughter the whole town?
Gotcha.
Super, really, really fucking good performances. Super good story. Super good writing.
Nice.
It's really good action. The dirty hobo guy, who's essentially the main character, he gets like one fight in the beginning, and then he kind of just hangs out for a while. But it's established that he's crazy tough, and that the lieutenant who came to get his commander is also pretty tough because they used to be like in the security business together, essentially.
Do you know if all these movies are Eastern movies, or are they mixed throughout like different?
They're definitely like Paradox is an Indo-Chinese movie, so they go to like Thailand and stuff, and like it starts in China and they go to Thailand. And then the rest of them have definitely been more Chinese movies, like straight up Chinese movies.
Okay.
So that was super good. The dude starts like, when he finally does start fighting again, he starts like just chopping motherfuckers up and killing everybody. It's cool. The villain, the guy who's like the murderer, is genuinely pretty terrifying. He there's one bit where he says some super creepy shit, and then he just looks right into the camera, and it's a moment where he like actually earns your terror.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool.
Okay.
I feel like I had to have watched something else. I watched the last. Oh, and before I watched all those though, I watched a movie called Biodome.
Oh.
Starring Pauly Shore and one of the Baldwin brothers, whose name I can't remember because he sucks.
Why?
And it's widely panned as one of the, if not the worst movies of all time.
So everyone I know around here fucking loves this movie, and they talk about like it's the best movie ever. But it came on while I was hanging out with my buddy Tim, and he was and when I noticed, I was like, oh, this is Biodome, because he had kind of explained it to me before. I hadn't seen it, but he explained it to me, and he was like, oh, this movie's great, and we basically sat down to watch it. And as time went on, I was like, is this movie shit? And I get about like 30 minutes in, and I was like, this movie sucks. This is a bad movie.
I think when you have to ask that question is the time you like, oh wait, I should probably just get up.
It's because everyone kept telling me it was a good movie, so I'm like, no, this movie is bad. This movie is actually really shitty. And so we're watching it. I'm like, Tim, this movie sucks. This movie's complete ass. He's like, no, it's actually really funny. Look, he would keep going. Look at this next part, and like every 5 minutes, it would just be the most unfunny, miserable, cringy garbage.
It's the guy who goes, hey, let me show you this YouTube video.
It super is. It's, oh my god, it's
like,
so bad.
Everybody has that one video that you really like, but no matter who you show, they're not going to get that level of enjoyment.
Yeah.
Like,
yep.
It was abysmal. Probably one of the worst movies I've ever seen in my entire life. I regret leaving my eyes open to witness it.
It's funny because it's so bad, because like everyone I've ever heard talk about it has said basically that same shit, but it's not even so bad that it's good, like The Room.
It's just life draining.
Yeah.
It's like you're watching it and you're like, oh god.
Like it's not even like so bad you can learn from it. It's just bad.
It's just really bad.
Do you guys laugh at cringe?
It depends on the cringe.
Yeah.
Like
if it's Biodome cringe where it's just bad and it's not funny or interesting or weird, you know, it's just bad, then no, I'm not gonna laugh at it. But if it's like that guy who gave the Lord of the Rings speech in his classroom and then kind of awkwardly shuffled out when he realized how bad it looked. That's fucking hilarious.
See, I can't stand cringe because I've been like on the side of the person being cringe too many times when I was younger.
Yeah.
So, like every time I see it, I'm just like, oh no.
I think that I kind of get that. I like I like cringy shit because depending on, I like the live performances where it's just like genuinely cringy, where someone's just being so genuinely awkward that like you get that like feeling inside your stomach.
Yeah.
Because like that's just like relatable. Like I've been there, and if I was in the audience of me being cringe, I would have laughed my ass off too. Because let's face it, I'm a fucking loser. But like
if I'm being cringy, like I know I'm being cringy, I'll eat that shit up. But like if I'm being cringy on accident, like it's always the accidental cringe stuff that I'm just like, oh god, no, I can't watch this shit.
I think the thing that gets me more and I get more enjoyment out of is watching the like just like rage compilations from like where people just like break their keyboards and controllers and shit.
Gotcha.
Just, yeah, punch through their monitor.
Yeah, because I also have I wouldn't call it an anger issue per se, but I definitely have like a tilt issue at the very least. And anyone who's played a game with me knows that. But like, it's never, I take that back. It has gotten to the point where I've broken a couple of things, but I've never really made a habit of it. And it's very good to put into perspective of, I should not be like this. I can like derive pleasure because like I know what it's like, and like seeing those kind of feelings like acted out through somebody else is kind of refreshing and kind of like freeing in a way. But like I would
like taking a good sip of a soda.
Yeah, or like I mean essentially. But like seeing
Yeah,
someone else punch
that's
the
all.
fuck out of their monitor when I want to do that, it feels so good because it's so relatable. And then you see like the just utter like I have just thrashed this $200 piece of equipment, like hit their face, and I don't have to deal with that repercussion. That is the best part.
Yeah.
And it
like,
also allows me to
That's
like
all well and good, but I like laughing at idiots.
I mean that
That's
too.
like that's the essential part of it to me. It's like I like laughing at people who do dumb shit, who do shit that they read the situation wrong, it just goes completely bad for them.
Yeah.
You know.
I mean,
So
what I was getting around to was I like them because it helps me like take myself out of the situation, and it especially in like the most recent years I feel like I've gotten a lot better about it. So it helps me like keep things in perspective, and I generally tend to rage a lot less, I would say.
I gotcha.
Recently it's been a little bit more, but that's because of dipshits. So and like it's one of those things that I still need to work on because I took it out on my girlfriend this last week, and that was not cool of me. So
Not okay.
I mean, she
accidentally fell down the stairs a couple times.
no, we were texting, and I was being a dick to her, and
see,
she took it like a champ, and I apologize, but that's just like it's not cool.
Chin.
Yeah, you know, it's not fucking cool, and I should be able to realize that before I have like those like emotional like lash outs essentially. So it's good because it's fun to like feel that kind of release, but also like that's something I should not like. That's something I should avoid. It gives me like a very like, yeah, this is not okay to like visualize, you know.
For me, it is any kind of tech issue or lag. You want to
See-
hear some string of curse words?
Yeah, and I don't think there's anything wrong with cursing. Like, especially when that kind of shit happens, it's like yelling kind of is like hitting the upper boundaries, but if you're just like, fuck, this is bullshit, like I hate it, like I don't have an issue with that.
I'm quite loud.
Yeah, and I mean, like, I'm also loud, and it's something else that I'm wanting to work on because it's one of those things that, like, my friends, I think, get a lot more tilted and a lot more venomous in the way that they interact with other people, but I'm just louder, and so they don't like it as much. So,
They can suck it up.
well, it's one of those things that, like, I want to respect their feelings, but also, you know, I'm not the one who's supplying the piss.
Who's not getting their feelings respected here? You or them? If they don't like you because you are a certain way, who's really not being respected there?
I think if it was one person, I would agree with that sentiment, but because it is a common conception, and especially because it's something that I already kind of feel about myself, I agree with them.
Oh, fair enough.
And then once I am the sensible moderator of emotion that I will never be, then I will take the fight to them. But until then, it gives me good reason to work on myself.
Yeah.
That being said, I have tried, dude. Oh my god, I've like finally smashed my desk in anger like last year, after not doing it for like 4 years, and it has just opened a floodgate of like shitty behaviors for me, where I'm like constantly smashing my desk, and by constantly I mean like once every 2 months, but that's like way more than I want.
Now, are we talking like going at it at your table, or just trying to make a loud noise?
Like fist thump table done.
Yeah. Okay. See, I just like to make noise because I need someone else to understand that I'm angry. I just need someone to understand that I'm angry.
Cameron already knows, but I'll just sit there and seethe in my hatred and anger.
Oh yes, you will.
Yeah.
I'll sit there and be nice and quiet.
I think. Yeah, go ahead.
I was gonna say Deshaun has the exact opposite type of anger as I do.
Yeah, like the thing is, I don't like having the just explosion of anger, like where you just like quiet, and then you just suddenly go off on people. I think it's better to like let it out as like a 20% like anger constantly than to like keep it under the hood and then blow it all at once. But at the same time,
yeah, you sound like a Jedi. We Sith don't do that.
I'm one of the fucking gray Jedis. I just kind of go, all right, look, Cell needs to get out of here, so I'll be right back, you guys. I'm sacrifice myself to make sure Cell doesn't blow up on all of you.
How'd that work out?
Your analogies are all getting mixed up. You're a Jedi who has to go kill Cell. What's going on here?
You're Android 16, and then...
But like, you've also got the Force.
What I'm saying is that I will let all my rage out after it builds up for a while at nobody.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think... Yeah, non-pointed anger is okay, I think, for the most part.
I've learned to control it so that way it doesn't get pointed at anybody specifically, and it just goes out into the void.
But one of the...
Nah, I'm like a wounded animal. If you come up to me while I'm angry, I'll probably bite you.
Oh, baby. But, like, it's one of those things that my roommate and I have very differing opinions on this on, and it's one of those things where I've learned to kind of channel how to deal with, like, my being upset or whatever, like, how I deal with issues that I found by talking about it. Like, I'll just complain about it for a little bit, you know? Mm-hmm. And, like, that helps kind of wash it. Yeah, it just helps kind of wash it out of my system. I don't necessarily want... It's like the super stereotypical, like, why does my girlfriend keep talking about her day? Like, kind of thing where I don't necessarily want a solution. I don't want, to, like, try to fix it. I don't even necessarily want to hear that I'm right. I just want somebody to hear my opinion, right? Mm-hmm. That is the kind of, like, validation I want. It's not even, like, I want somebody to be like, yeah, no, you were right. Like, I don't even mind if someone's like, yeah, you sound like an asshole. Sometimes I just want to get it out of my system. And Keon is the person that I usually talk to about that kind of stuff, but he's a very engineer-based person, so he will constantly be like, well, why didn't you do this? Did you try
Here's
this?
a solution.
Yeah, and I'm just like... Yeah.
That's how I am.
Yeah.
That's also how I am.
And it's like, no, because shut the fuck up. Like, your job right now...
It took me a long time to learn that there are people who are like, no, I don't want a solution. I just need to get this anger out. And it's like, well, I can't help you then.
Well, it's like
just get it out.
It's one thing if you're actively troubleshooting a problem, because that's when I do want a solution, right? Like, if I'm trying to figure out why my computer's not posting, and he's like, well, have you checked this, and this, that's super helpful. If I'm talking about shit that has already happened and had nothing to do with him, why on the God's green earth do you think that I'm gonna want your input on this kind of shit?
I'm really good at letting people vent to me until they start asking me questions while they're venting.
That's a huge, that's always the weird thing. It's like, all right, dude, I know you're venting, but you're asking me for solutions. I'm not just going to sit here and tell you some bullshit to make you happy. I'm going to tell you,
the worst thing is that when someone comes up to me and I didn't know, there's been so many times where people came up to me and I don't know they're venting, so I just started going down the list of why they're fucking up.
Yeah, I've had this with like girlfriends a lot where they'll tell me about a situation they're in or whatever, and I'll be like, well, why don't you just do this? And it's like, no, I don't need you to tell me that. I'm like, well, you weren't exactly very clear.
I'm just sitting there just like, but you could have solved this whole issue by saying one word.
You could not be angry about this situation right now, but
I'm so
people like that.
Because I just want to fix things. All I want to do is fix your problems. That's all.
See, me, it's not even I want to fix your problems. I just want you to shut up.
No, okay, see, that's again where I'm neutral, you're evil, and he's good. I just want to fix your problems.
I do actually think that it's because I spent most of my formative years with mostly chicks.
Oh, yeah.
That I kind of have that same like way to vent and get shit out of my system.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
and like
where it's more like it's not as clinical or like logical. It's a little bit more just all right. I just gotta get this out.
yeah, and like usually after that, I can kind of like most of the time I know the solution, right?
Yeah.
But it's not like I know what the fuck I'm supposed to be doing. It's not that I want to deal with. It's the fact that I feel upset that I want to deal with. And then after that, I can be like, okay, this is what I should have done. That's what I'll do next time. Fine. You know?
Yeah.
But it is just so infuriating sometimes because I was talking to Keon about, I think it was League or something. It was something like really trivial that I was upset about, and like he doesn't give a shit. But like,
It's just a game, bro.
yeah, maybe we are a couple. I don't know. Like,
I mean, you talk about them like you two are together.
I mean,
maybe I'll just start drawing some.
They're roommates, is why.
yeah, we've been together for 5 years now, so it's a long ass time.
Aw,
6
that's
years.
Cute.
Yeah.
It's adorable.
I mean, our girlfriends have to third wheel. Let's be real. So, but like, it's one of those things where he doesn't care about my shit as much, which is totally understandable. He doesn't play League anymore. He doesn't play Valorant. He doesn't, like whatever. But like, I'll like talk to him about our band, and like I was talking about this guitar, and he's like, "Are you gonna buy it?" And I'm like, "No." And he's like, "Then why are you talking about it?" I'm like, "Cause it's fucking cool." Like. And it's shit like that where it's like there's a very big disconnect in how we deal with problems. Like, as I've been shopping around on Reverb a lot for used gear and like ideas, because eventually Kayla and I want to custom build a guitar, like ourselves. And so I've been looking around for ideas, and I've just been like, you kind of get that like window shopping like high of like, oh man, I want to buy that, like that would be so cool. And I keep telling him about these guitars. He's like, "Are you gonna get any of them?" And I'm like, "Well, no." And he's like, "Then why do I care?" And I'm like, "Dude." So, yeah,
dude.
it is. It's just one of those things that it's different
I
for,
feel that.
yeah. And it's really weird because my girlfriend is. I'm the more like, as far as that kind of stuff is concerned, I'm the more feminine of us, like of the both of us. So, it's really, really funny, like dealing with her and how she interacts with problems.
It's understandable, though.
Yeah, or I guess like more traditionally feminine, because she's like an engineer, and she's very much like Keon actually, where she like just tries to like
I think
hit
there is the ideas of the psychologically feminine, psychologically masculine or whatever.
Yeah.
The ideas of feminine and masculine are no longer really tied to your actual gender. So.
Yeah, it's more just your psyche.
Yeah, and I would say I'm like a pretty I'm a pretty masculine woman. I'm a pretty like feminine guy, I would say. Like I don't really. I'm not like a super like masculine dude. You guys have both seen me on stream. Like I'm not a super like ripped like chiseled motherfucker. And I try to look at things like I try to like be a median for a lot of stuff. Except for when I'm like dealing with something like that really ticks me off, and then I'm just like, well, fuck you too. Like,
Yeah.
I don't know, and I don't really have a problem with that. Like, I don't think there's an issue with it.
I don't think there is either.
People can do whatever they want. I don't give a
Yeah.
shit.
Yeah.
They're not assholes like Deshaun. It's kind of hard dealing with like 7,000 Deshaun's at once.
See, here's the thing. People can be whatever they want as long as they don't annoy me. I don't really give a shit. I'm all for equality as long as I don't get annoyed.
Yeah, I feel
That's
like
why I was like tweeting, you can be a liberal and not be corny as fuck. So please stop being corny as fuck.
that is
I
one of
don't know
those
if you
things,
guys
though.
remember the attack and dethrone God thing that was happening for like a little bit.
No, what?
I heard things about it, but like I
Attack and
understood.
dethrone God is like a thing from like a book, like from some old ass book that kind of got brought back for the reason because of the riots and shit. But like the people who were all saying it were like a bunch of nerds with anxiety issues, and like you kind of have to earn the right to say cool shit. so when a bunch of like dorks who can't go outside without like taking a sip out of their inhaler,
That
are
statement-
saying that shit to me,
That
I
statement is too true, though. You have to earn the right to say cool shit.
I mean, like okay, let me first state I completely agree with you, but like as somebody who literally had an inhaler, like fuck you.
Bro, and like an inhaler is not cool. It's like it's literally the
It's
opposite
not.
of cool.
It's
like,
really
and
not.
that's okay because it's not supposed to be cool. It's supposed to keep you alive.
Yeah. I mean, it's like IV drips. Like, it's not cool. No one looks tough with an IV drip.
Right? Yeah.
But if it's keeping you alive, more power to you.
Like Sakurai's not here trying to look tough. He's trying to make video games.
But, like, I kind of agree with what you're saying because, like, even if you're not, you know, like, buff or tough looking, like, you got to be able to stand up for what you believe in. You shouldn't back off. Okay, let me hold on. Let me temper this statement.
I'm glad you're talking about this because this is a huge part of Call of Heroes, where the sheriff of the town is like, I'm not gonna let this guy go because he fucking murdered 3 people, and it's the wrong. It would be wrong to just let him go. You know, he's evil. He did the wrong thing. He needs to be punished. And I'm not just gonna let him go. You know.
Yeah, I think it's one of those things where no matter what you look like or who you are as a person, you can stand behind what you believe and what you say. And I think that's for me, that is what is the right to say cool shit. Is as long as you could not even necessarily back it up, but like you like stand there and don't change your opinion 24/7, or if somebody challenges you, you're not just like, oh, I'm sorry. Like, no, like you can be like, yeah, you know, I said that and I've learned since then that that's like the wrong way to look at it. Like, that's totally fine. But like if I come up here and I'm just like, fuck the Pope, you know, like I'm not gonna back down from that. Like, somebody come and be like, the Pope damns you to hell, and I'm like, go ahead. And you know, real talk, I don't know the Pope, so he could be cool, whatever. Like, I don't give a shit.
Yeah, fuck the Pope.
But like, you know, it's like that's a statement I'm not gonna fucking back down from, because I've said it, and I haven't learned anything that will make me change that opinion.
Yeah, that's why I try not to be constantly like whenever you guys are like, oh, but Deshaun, you gotta think about how blankety blank feels about this kind of person feels about this. I don't give a shit, you know, and I try not to let that I'm trying to let that compromise my position, where I'm constantly like needling away at what I believe just so I can kind of incorporate what somebody else believes a little bit, just so somebody can say, oh, well, at least you're thinking about somebody else. It's like, but my ideas aren't for somebody else. What I want is not for somebody else. I want what I want,
Yeah.
Look, it's the only difference between me and Deshaun.
I will say that I don't think that it's wrong to think that, with the asterisk of the way that I look at things is, if somebody's like, if 1 or 2 people are like really offended by something, fuck them. If you have I don't know why I just went like European.
If you
have the majority of the American public, if you have the majority of the American public, like enough people that you could say like, yeah, that's most of America, pissed at you, I would start to rethink a statement.
Yeah.
Like that is the level at which, because like someone's always going to disagree with you, right?
Yeah.
Like, so it doesn't fucking matter. But
I think ultimately, even if you're not going to change your mind, at least look into what people are saying, and at least look at the criticism and be like, okay, I can see where they're coming from,
Yeah.
I can at least be like, I can at least empathize or sympathize or whatever, but I'm not gonna, go out of my way to start changing myself for them.
Yeah.
Just so they could be happy.
Well, it's like, I will offer up one position like this, which is, I fucking love guns. I think they're awesome. But
Agreed.
I am all 100% down for stricter gun control, and I'm not abashed to say that, right? And regardless of what other people think, those are my opinions. And it's like, as much as I love shooting guns and, like firing, reloading, taking care of guns, like, yeah, we're just not responsible as a society, or at least my beliefs are, that we're not responsible enough as a society right now to have these kind of, these freedoms. So, regardless of what other people think, I'm just going to stand by that. And I know that's going to piss some people off, like, if somebody finds this podcast, but, like, fucking, who cares?
Right.
Like,
well, because the thing about limiting people and what they do, like whether it's like not letting people get guns or not letting gay people get married or whatever, is that the people who really care are gonna find a way around it anyway, So you're kind of getting in their way from the reason. So like with gun control, yeah, it's ridiculous how easy it is to get a gun, especially in my state where you can literally just go to a gun fair and just have a dude hand you a gun, and then that's
And-
it. They
and
put
then-
the onus is on you to go get it registered and shit. So you could just never do that.
And then the other
Yeah.
thing is that like you're not allowed to sell the gun and the bullets together, and then you just kind of go right to the other side of the fair, buy the bullets.
Right. So it's like, yeah, it's like insane that it's so easy, but at the same time, people who are like, just get rid of all guns, like, well, you know, the people who are doing this horrific shit are criminals who are breaking the law regardless. So making a law that says they're not allowed to have this weapon is not going to stop them. You know,
And
that's how it's.
I do
That's
get
how
that.
that's how it's like. But I mean, like people are like people acknowledge the law for what it is, and it's just somebody trying to control somebody else. You know, at least with our system, like in this in places where the government isn't so like horrifically corrupt and evil like ours is. Yeah, gun control laws, you know, they're pretty good. They're pretty dope. They keep the fucking crazies from being a little extra crazy. But for us, it's like it only makes it worse because everybody, the instant a law happens, the first thing people want is for that law to go away because it's impeding on their freedoms.
Yeah, I guess. I don't know. It's like I understand. I kind of understand that argument, where like only the bad guys will have guns, but
It's not even that. It's like you're imposing more restrictions on people who aren't even breaking the law. That's my point. Where it's like you're crushing the boot down a little bit harder on people who chose to be under the boot, as opposed to on the people who are like running around who refuse to be under the boot at all. You know.
I guess. I don't know. It's one of those things where I think that it needs to be fine tuned because I agree
Absolutely,
that
yeah.
completely banning firearms is I don't like it, and that's as somebody who thinks that we need stricter gun control because firearms are tools. They're like knives, you know. Yeah, they can be weapons, but they're also just tools, and they're recreational tools at that. You know, you can use them just fucking shoot off at a range.
But to be fair, they're like the only tool really meant to straight up kill someone.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah,
But like
so-
people use them for hunting too, you know, and it's
Right.
They also use them to get bears and stuff away from their homes.
yeah, and like
Yeah.
that's why I'm thinking, and this is like my idea, like we need stricter like assault weapon controls, because like
Yeah.
yes, people have still gone on like you know rampages and shit with handguns and with bolt action rifles, but it is significantly fewer than the number of rampages that have been gone on with like automatic weapons. And realistically,
It's just so much easier. It like I used I'm pretty sure I used the clip in an old podcast, but like the quote from the movie is the AK-47 when you absolutely positively need to kill every single motherfucker in a room,
Yeah.
except no substitutes. Like the weapon is made to clear rooms out, you know.
yeah, and like I don't see anything wrong with like somebody having you know like a rifle in their home, especially if if they like to go hunting or whatever. But like there is absolutely zero need to have an assault weapon ever.
Like regular citizens don't really need military grade equipment. Just
Yeah.
hang around at their house.
And like let's be real, if the U.S. government decided to just go full like fucking Tyrannosaurus Rex on us and like roll down the like a dumb
they're-
hillbilly with an M16 is not going to stop them. Let's be honest.
A bunch of hillbilly cops are rolling over protesters with fucking like gas and rubber bullets and shit, you know. And like people are literally being attacked and they're not fighting back. So what do you think is going to happen when the government just kind of decides, let's just take over. Let's just kind of, you know, shut everything down. Like, you know, the government doesn't give a fuck about us and our shit, you know.
And
So Hillbilly Joe having a fucking rocket launcher and a bunch of AR-15s and shit, he doesn't stand a fucking chance against
We're talking
Uncle
about
Sam.
real life and not GTA. What the fuck?
well, I mean,
Bro,
that's the point.
Cameron, how deep in the South have you been? Like, these motherfuckers are
No,
armed the fuck up.
Trust me, I fucking know.
And it's just one of those things where it's like it makes no sense. And like at some point you get a weapon that is just meant for killing people. Like it's not meant for killing bears, it's not meant for killing deer or rhinoceroses or anything.
Yeah, like a handgun isn't to kill, a fucking wolf or something. It's to kill your next door neighbor.
Yeah.
Or
your
like,
wife. But like
kids.
Well, it's like, and handguns I kind of understand because, like, let's be real, like I could not really keep a rifle in my room. Realistically, like I can keep a handgun in my room.
A handgun is just straight up protection. You know?
And like I'm okay with that. Like I understand the kind of need for it, or at least the idea of a need for it. And rifles, I think, and shotguns, I think, are decent as hunting weapons, and I don't think they should ever really be. I mean, they should be regulated, but they shouldn't be like taken away. But like, there's no fucking situation in which you need an actual like AR-15, unless you're like training for the military.
Exactly.
Or like if you're in a PMC or something, then I could, whatever. Like if your purpose is military, then I understand. But like as a civilian, it makes zero fucking sense. So
Exactly.
I don't know. It's shit like that.
Speaking of weapons, the glamorous animations of weapons in the game Last of Us 2 are a very weird and stark contrast to the message they're trying to tell, which is anger bad, vengeance wrong, violence bad.
Have you played Last of
But
Us 2?
but check out my sick ass pistol upgrade animation and how I combo these fucking kills together.
Have you played Last of Us 2?
Yeah, that's what I was doing on Wednesday and Thursday.
Okay, I was just curious. I didn't know if you were just
Well,
watching
that
it
and some
or if
other
you're
stuff.
playing it.
Yeah, so my ex-girlfriend, who's been getting into games lately, she usually when I don't buy a AAA game or some shit, she's probably got it because she just has fucking throwaway money.
Yeah.
So she's just buying whatever the fuck comes out. She bought fucking like Call of Duty and hasn't even touched it once.
What the fuck?
She's just buying whatever. So
Actually, I shouldn't. I have like 500 games on
so
Steam.
she was like, I tried playing Last of Us and I was too scared. Do you want to come play it? And I was like, all right, I guess. So I got through a decent chunk in like a day and a half, for however long we were actually playing it. So without having seen like the rest of the actual story, without watching like cutscenes on YouTube or whatever, it's fine.
Okay.
It's about as good as regular Last of Us, the original. The story's not as good though so far. Like it's not as intriguing or as catching or as like it's not quite as like the I guess the effect of the original Last of Us is gone now. The kind of like shocking aspect of it, or like the just the kind of depressing, hopeless nature of it that kind of changes. Like this game is super weird because the story stuff is not very interesting, but like you can like you start the game playing as a different character, and then you switch over to the characters you want to play as. But I don't know. It just seems kind of
Off.
just nothing. It's just kind of just nothing. It's just another overblown AAA game with a not good, with like an okay to not good story. You fight zombies, or you fight the real monster. It's just whatever. Okay. The actual like shooting stuff, like pulling a trigger and seeing a guy's head explode is still pretty satisfying. That carries over from the first game, that was satisfying there. But otherwise, it's like, typical like story that thinks it's too smart for its own good. It's trying to be like these characters are so relatable. These characters, don't you feel for them and all that shit. But I don't, because I don't give a fuck, because they're not
I think we already knew that.
They're not interesting characters. They're not exceptional by any means. They're just the people who kill more people than everybody else, so they survive.
Yeah.
But ultimately, they're not. And this is what I wanted to talk about that I kind of didn't get to talk about last week. And this is before I had even played it. The Last of Us characters in Last of Us 2, from like the leaks that I know, they and basically just kind of from how the characters act in this, and from what I have played, they are just stupid mooks, essentially. the main characters that you're playing as are just regular average people with nothing really exceptional or different about them, and they make the same kind of dumb mistakes that, you know, random, you know, background characters would make that would get them killed, right?
Yeah.
And they're not interesting to deal with. And I think the deal for me with characters is that it's okay, so it's one thing to have them be relatable and just be regular people, but they gotta be exceptional somehow, because if your story is just about regular ass people, I'm not gonna be interested. If I want a story about regular people having regular conflicts, I would just open my window and just watch my neighbors argue. Right? Like,
Yeah.
you're not really telling me anything other than people fight, people hate each other, people get mad and dislike each other, because the actual character writing isn't deeper interesting at all either. These characters aren't unique enough for me to be like really enthralled with the characters or interested in something they have to say or something funny they have to say. They're just they're just basically background characters almost. They're like NPCs, you know, where
And
they
that
just
was
have nothing going
one of the
on.
strong points of the first game, right? Was the characters.
Where the characters were a lot more like there was something kind of exceptional about them, you know, and like Joel really felt like a guy who stood out in this world. Like, despite the fact that he had fallen and kind of was doing like those grunt jobs, you could tell there was something different about him. But here, nobody like they're trying so hard to make everybody like unique and relatable and special that no one is unique and relatable and special. They're all just kind of the same, you know. So they're trying to make you care about so many characters at once that they're just kind of homogenizing all the characters. So you don't really give a fuck about anybody at the end of the day. And when your characters are making the same dumb mistakes that is like the dumb mistakes that make grunts unspecial and unspectacular, you know, you see your main characters making that mistake, you're like, well, what the fuck do I care about these characters for then? If they're just fucking up in a way that I already know characters can fuck up. If they're just the same boring bullshit, you know? Like, it's like people like here like people relate to, like, in like comic books, people relate to like Spider-Man because he has regular everyday shit going on, right? But he's also fucking Spider-Man, so he puts on a costume and flies around and shit. He's special, he's spectacular. There's something is like interesting about him, you know.
Yeah.
People and you know, I don't want the only special thing to be about these characters to be that I'm controlling them and therefore they're killing way more people than normal, you know.
Yeah.
Like, it's just completely, it just makes the character like nothing to me at the end of the day.
I can see that. Yeah.
While you were talking, I was thinking, I've very rarely, if ever, seen a character that I would classify as someone who actually represents me. Because most of the time, they're either like goody two-shoes or they're anti-heroes. There's very little, like very few characters are really the in-between of like someone who's really trying to do good but realizes that sometimes you have to do evil shit to get shit done. Like, and the few times that there are those kind of characters, they're usually the antagonists, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Sometimes you have to kill the Batman or the Joker. Batman
yeah, like,
just doesn't.
I was thinking, like, there are some scenarios where, as the good guy, sometimes you just can't let the bad guy live. Or
Right.
let him be free or whatever. Like, and I've very rarely seen that in video games. And I think it's because they're trying to make the characters too, like, they're trying to make them quote-unquote relatable rather than actually relatable. Or, like, put them in situations where being the good person or completely just evil is the best route. And, like, that's just
Like-
not how life is.
Like, they're relatable from like a marketing sense, not relatable from a people sense.
They're relatable from a moral sense.
Yeah.
Where, like, I should be this person. But, like,
Yeah.
like let's be real, in a situation like The Last of Us or any other like apocalypse scenario, like you're gonna have to make tough decisions, and sometimes that decision is whether or not to kill somebody.
Yeah. Well, that's the thing about Last of Us, where that's all they do, right? Like that. Like there's no kind of like they just give in to like their hatred and anger and vengeance and rage, and there's no kind of like, if we keep trying to kill these motherfuckers, they'll keep sending people to kill us. So maybe we should leave them alone, you know? Even at the points where it's like, how about you just leave them alone? They just don't. And you're like, that's a dumb decision. And I don't even, it's more than I don't even relate to this character. I've just completely lost interest in the character, you know.
Yeah, and so what came to my mind was there's this book series called the Night Angel trilogy, and they have very much like anti-hero-ish characters, but they are still like quote unquote like good characters, right?
Yeah.
Like the mentor of the protagonist is more of an anti-hero, but the actual protagonist is like somebody who like he sees the need for someone who has to do all like the dirty work, and he is the character who does the dirty work. And like yes, like technically you do the dirty work in games, but most of the times it's not like you want to do it or that you like see the need or whatever. It's like you're forced into that situation. Like somebody attacks you, and then you know the person next to you gets shot and killed, and you have to grab their gun and fight your way out.
You killed this man's dog. Don't you feel bad about it?
Yeah, like
piece of shit.
It's never like
not really.
It's never like fuck. I have to go end this war, right?
Yeah.
Like they say it like I'm gonna go end the war, but it's not like I don't want to do this, but it's what has to be done, and somebody has to do it. You know.
You don't feel the tension and drama that the character feels. You're just kind of like, all right, more shit I gotta do.
Yeah, and it's like, and there are some games that make me feel like that, you know, like that make me feel the same tension and shit. But like, very, very few of them really instill in me, especially the apocalypse games, that very really rarely instill in me like the feeling of like, I need to play this like I would do it in real life, you know, and I wouldn't. Like a lot of games, I just end up playing the good guy, you know, because I'm like, oh, this is how I should play. This is what I should be, rather than like, I should just do what I would do in real life, which is blow off everybody except for the exact thing I need to do. Like, let's be real.
Yeah. Like if you're given a mission, you're not gonna be walking around talking to all the fucking villagers in a town or whatever the fuck. You're gonna be just doing your thing, you know.
And if some side quest NPC comes up to me in real life and is like, hey, can you help me with it? No, fuck off. I don't know you.
Yeah,
like
don't want to fucking.
I might not say it like that, but like I would
probably
say.
It's a fucking apocalypse. I ain't got time to be fucking around with all the niceties.
Yeah, well, it's like even if somebody came up to me today and asked like, "Hey, can you help me with this?" I'm like, "Do I know you?" Like that would be my first question, which in a game is like a dick thing to say, but like in real life, it's like, who the fuck have we met before?
Traveler.
Yeah, like so it's one of those things that I would be interested in seeing eventually. So.
Yeah. Like it's like the whole like characters being relatable thing. Like, I really wish people would stop trying to make their characters so relatable. Stop trying to force it down my throats. You know, like it's gotten to the point where people don't really know what relatable means. You know, people think they can relate to Batman because he's human. He's also a billionaire with like the most dope ass military equipment on the fucking planet and all kinds of intense training that you could never even imagine, and his parents were both fucking murdered in an alley. Not too many people can really relate to that experience, that life, that lifestyle, you know, but for some reason people are like, he's so relatable. The only thing Batman represents is like human determination.
You know who's more relatable?
Superman, because he grew up in fucking Kansas with regular parents, and then he moved to a city and became a reporter and got a regular ass job. Go ahead.
Nightcrawler.
Yeah, that crowd's pretty relatable, but because he's much more of like a down to earth character.
Yeah.
He has regular shit going on, you know. Besides the fact that he's like he looks like a demon, you know. He is.
Oh, dude, I relate to that.
But even that is like just a kind of like hyperized, like a kind of large scaling of regular human problems, you know. Like, what's his deal? Oh, people don't like him because he looks different. A lot of people can fucking relate to that.
Yep.
You know.
And I will say, I kind of get the Batman thing in a more metaphysical sense, where it's like he's dealing with like loss and depression. Yeah. And I kind of get that because that's more on display for Batman than a lot of other characters, because it's more like the forefront of his character. But I hate when, like what you said, people are just like, oh, he's human. Like, if you want to bring up the fact that he lost his parents and didn't really ever get over that, or, you know, fucking doesn't trust anyone, like, that's human shit that you can relate to.
Yeah.
So, like
there's real like, whenever I hear like X character isn't relatable because they're hyper powerful, like the Superman thing that people always say, oh, he's got too many powers, how can you make a story with him? Like, just because the dude could always win doesn't mean you can't make a story about him. Batman always wins. Spider-Man always wins. Heroes always fucking win. Heroes and everything always win, no matter what, you know?
Yeah.
So saying this guy's going to win, therefore you can't make good stories with them, and therefore the character is not relatable, that's not true at all. You know? What, like, the characters don't have to be exactly like you to be relatable. I don't need a character to be a black dude who's 6'3" with dreads for me to relate to him. You know, they can just be the character, and they can go through what they go through, and that's where I relate to them. You know?
It's the
I'm not just
relatable.
going to relate to a character because he simply exists. You know, shit has to happen, and just saying, oh well, he exists specifically in this way, therefore you're not going to relate to him. That's like. You're missing the point, you know, of the character, of storytelling.
Fucking Cinema Wins, the everything great about YouTube channel. They did Black Panther and they did Into the Spider-Verse, and they were kind of talking about the this kind of idea where what you were saying, like, even if someone is a 6'3" black dude with dreads, that doesn't mean you relate to him. But it's cool having. Okay, hold on. Let me split this into two parts. Part one, it's cool having people, like different people and more representation on in media, right? Because sometimes it's nice to see someone that looks like you. But more importantly,
but that's usually either, oh cool, a character that can kind of relate to. If that thing kind of matters to you, then it's like, oh cool, a character that can kind of relate to my story, but that isn't super necessary. Or it's, oh cool, he looks like me.
Yeah. Part two.
And that's it. And you just move on.
Part two is if they go through the same type of struggle as you, and that's not bound by your race or your culture.
Right.
Because feeling insecure or feeling put down or whatever, that's not restricted to being black or being white or growing up in Thailand or whatever. Like, it's shit like that's universal, and you can kind of relate to that to anyone. And I think that's more relatable is like how they deal with the struggle.
Yeah. Yeah, I think we're just... Because now, like, with Last of Us 2 out, their whole deal was making the characters... making you care whenever you kill a guy or whatever. But it's like, you just got them going, oh no, they got Bill. Oh no, you killed my dog. Oh no. And it's just... it's like canned, and it's like... you hear it... you hear it so much that you stop caring. And all the characters are, like I said, all characters are just homogenized and the same. So you're not, then the game is giving you these awesome, sick animation, these kill animations, and then telling you, but that kill animation was bad, right? It's like, but it was sick though. You can't tell me this thing is bad and then have me feeling awesome for doing it.
I will say that hearing you say all that makes me think that XCOM is potentially one of the best games for this, because you genuinely feel anytime one of your soldiers gets killed in that game.
Like that's something where it's more like, you've named these characters, they've kind of stuck around with you for a while, and you've gone into battle with them, and then they die. That's a genuine feeling of, oh no.
Yeah, it's like, I know Joey never hits his shots, but...
Right, exactly. You like the specific, like, their stats and shit, and because the odds of it happening are so different. Like in Last of Us, if a character dies, it's because they were scripted to die, or like they were just an enemy on the screen that didn't need to die. So in XCOM, when you could lose your whole fucking team, or you could just lose a couple members, and you've been through shit with them, so you're like, oh shit, I didn't expect that. They got one over on us, and they got two of my guys. Like that means more than just having a character like express something. Or just say, I'm so sad that I'm dying. If only I had, done all the things I'd ever wanted, But
yeah, I feel it.
I don't know what the deal is at Sony now, where they keep trying to make these like artsy fartsy cinematic games that try to push some boundary or whatever the fuck. Like, just make a video game. Like, just make this shit fun. Like, the fact that Neil Druckmann or where the fuck was like, I wouldn't describe our game as fun. Oh, okay, then, Mr. Druckmann, I wouldn't consider your game bought, then. I'm not gonna fucking buy your pile of unfun shit if you won't even, you don't even think it's fun. I'm playing video games to have fun. If I want to be miserable, I'll watch a movie, you know? Like, it's insane that they're like, that devs, especially at Sony, like Cory Barlog and shit, and you know, and they act like video games as a medium just isn't enough. You know, they act like it has to imitate some other shit. It's not high art because you're having fun. So, you know, you gotta be miserable. You gotta fucking, you know, your characters gotta cry every time they fucking break a dude's neck in a sick animation. Your characters gotta, you know, and they're not relatable. They're just characters that are miserable for the sake of being miserable, and there's nothing to say about it, really. The message isn't there.
Actually, going back to what I said earlier, there was one game that I forgot about that has a character that is inherently good but does shit that they need to, and that is Clem from The Walking Dead Season 2.
Hell yeah.
I totally forgot about this, but
she's an amazing character.
Popped into my head. She does shit that she knows needs to be done, even if it's not what she agrees with. And I think she's a great character. I don't know. And getting back to what you were saying, I understand, and I actually kind of like the idea of games, like some games, as being interactive movies. I think that's a fine way to tell a story. I also don't think that they should be marketing them as like video games, really. Like, it's cool and it's whatever, like Heavy Rain, whatever, cool, interesting idea, but like some people are going to really like that and think it's awesome, and some people are just not. And I think marketing them as like, I don't know, like interactive movies, or
I was gonna say, since they want them to be movies so bad, why don't you market them as interactive movies or something instead of wasting my fucking time?
Yeah,
treating them like they're video games and acting like they're one thing when they're another.
Yeah, I feel like if there's no like real way to express your skill or yourself in a game, because I mean, I guess there are multiple endings in those kind of games, but like, and I guess this would kind of pull visual novels into it too, but like, I don't know, I guess I would prefer those games to be considered visual novels, or like, you know, like interactive movies or something like that, because I agree that they're not.
Do you think there's a market for interactive movies? Like, just as a
oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Have you heard of David Cage?
%.
Well, it's like the other thing too is like games don't. I disagree that games need to be fun, but I agree that like they should be engaging and interesting.
Yeah.
And like fun is a good way to do that. But like if you want to tell a more somber story where you just feel drained at the end, but like you were invested in it the entire time, I think that's fine. It's just harder to do.
Yeah, but if it's a video game, guess what? Your gameplay is going to have to be exciting in some way for that to work. You know, your gameplay is going to have to actually be something you're heavily invested in. That by the time you're at the end of the game, you're like, the story drained me, the gameplay drained. Like everything has to add up together to give you that experience. It can't just be, you know, all right, I pressed A and then the movie played. And then I pressed A again, and then the rest of the movie played, and I pressed A again. You know,
yeah.
You're gonna want to actually play the game.
Yeah. So what I'm saying is, like, would you be willing to buy more games like that if they were, why is the word escaping me?
If they were marketed that way?
Thank you. Yes.
No, I would never touch those games ever because I want to play a video game where I have fun playing the video game.
I was just curious because, like you said,
like I already don't like movies.
I don't like movies that much either
because they're very passive, and then kind of trying to meet me in the middle where you give me a movie, but I press a button or two every now and then, or I walk forward every now and then. Like you just gave me a bad video game. Then you didn't give me a good movie or a fun interactive movie. You just gave me a bad video game.
I wasn't gonna say like just a movie that you press buttons during. I mean, like it's narratively driven. Your choices are like made here and there, but like it's not like a video game where like your choices actually matter typically.
I think that if the story is, because really there's no there's no real gameplay for those kind of games. Like maybe you walk around and like inspect shit, but like really it's a point and click game. And when it comes down to it, it just needs to be engaging enough, and it just needs to be interesting enough. And if it is, then it will absolutely flourish. And if not, then it will flounder. And I think that's kind of how you have to deal with it. Is that it can only, because there's nothing. It's not, you know, Call of Duty. You can't sell it on the gameplay. You need to sell it on the story and the narrative and how it speaks to people. And I think that's the most important thing for that.
To me, that speaks volumes about the game. The way they're talking about, the way they market it. Like, I don't think I saw Neil Druckmann say a peep about the gameplay. That, like, when they were trying to sell Last of Us 2, there was nothing really about the gameplay. It was all about, like, the story and the atmosphere and the graphics, but it was never really... Which, it's weird because the gameplay is probably the best part about the fucking game. You know? It's the one part of the game that's actually kind of got something going on, you know? But, I don't know. It's games are in this weird spot where, you know, I feel like they should have evolved into something else, but they just didn't, you know? We kind of just got stuck in the stronger systems, better graphics. Like, we just kind of got stuck in that kind of shit. And now, instead of these AAA businesses with their millions upon millions upon millions of dollars, instead of them being the ones taking risks and innovating the industry, it's the onus is on indie games now. You know, indie games have to come along and make sure video games don't start stagnating, which is fucked up. You know, these huge companies that claim they care about games in the industry are choking the fuck out of video games, you know?
I guess, but at the same time, and this is something that I've become more and more, like, aware of, is that this happens in the music industry constantly, where, you know, one genre of, you know, music will get really big and be very, very popular, and then then
that becomes the genre for like 5-6 years.
Yeah, but then, and this happened especially with, like, in the late 80s with like hair metal and you know, like glam metal and shit like that, and then grunge kind of came the fuck out of nowhere and then just bitch slapped it out of existence. Now that, you know, like, glam metal doesn't exist now or whatever, but, like, there's still stuff going on, but, like, that is kind of how I see the video game field evolving, is there isn't going to be, like, one major genre anymore that really takes over shit. Like, we had the action adventure boom in the early 2010s where fucking everything was a third-person shooter, and it was gray and brown, and, you know, like, the Uncharted series was like that, Gears of War.
They were literally called brown shooters.
Yeah.
They, like, carved out their own little genre. There were so fucking many of them.
Yeah, and it's like, I hope we don't kind of see that again. And indie games are a great way for people to continue to push it. And I kind of hope it's just like music, where eventually, like, nowadays, there's no, like, being on the radio doesn't really mean shit anymore, because the coolest shit is happening on SoundCloud and Spotify and shit.
Yeah.
So, I think we should start wrapping this up, though.
Yeah. We're pretty much, yeah.
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 Let's see. Was there one other thing I wanted to mention? Oh, it's just Warden is in Samurai Showdown.
Oh, yeah, he has an unblockable dash.
That's cool.
Super weird.
I think it's cool.
Cool pick.
All right. Where can we find you, Deshaun?
You can find me at Mr. Urban Buddha on Twitter, Mr. Urban Buddha on YouTube, and Super Urban Buddha on Twitch.
And Derek, where can we find you?
You can find me at Came In Second on all platforms, and my handle on Twitter is real_CIS.
And you can find me at I Press the Buttons on YouTube, Twitter, and Twitch. And as always, laugh at yourself. I'm gonna go make me some food because I'm hungry as fuck. You guys take care.